Hello Internet, I'm called Matt, and it's that glorious time of year where I angrily rant about all of the movies that got released that just make me go, why? Why was this made? Who wanted this? Who asked for this? Why was money put into this instead of something creative and original? Or at the very least, something with a chance of being good? I don't know, Hollywood pisses me off, and the only weapon I have against them is shame. So let's shame some movies. This is the top 10 most pointless movies of 2021. Number 10, Coming to America. Stop making sequels to 80s comedies. This is truly scraping the bottom of the barrel in terms of milking old content. I think the problem is, generally speaking, these studios know they can't remake 80s comedies. Not that they don't still try, but typically they're smarter than that. So sequels tends to be the way to go. Now, I don't really have any strong feelings about Coming to America. It's certainly one of the better 80s comedies you could try to make a sequel to, although I'm holding out for Molly Ringwald in 56 Candles. But something about this just feels so cynical. Just a quick way to milk a few bucks out of an IP you already had. And I guess it's something to hold Eddie Murphy over until Shrek 5. But you know, it's hardly the most egregious thing. Honestly, studios were still kinda cautious with theatrical releases in 2021, so in another year, these bottom few might have passed for an honorable mention. I'm mostly just worked up about another 30 years late sequel to a classic movie. It doesn't really matter which movie it is. Number 9, Snake Eyes. A little something to make you go, oh fuck, I forgot about those damn G.I. Joe movies. In fairness, if you're gonna make a standalone movie, Snake Eyes is probably the best choice. Unfortunately, following on the heels of those other movies is probably not a good idea. They weren't financially successful, they weren't well reviewed, they aren't fondly remembered, and also, it's been 8 years, this franchise is as good as dead. Really, any potential a G.I. Joe movie may have is just gonna have to wait until audiences, and perhaps to a greater extent studio executives, get the taste out of their mouths. Honestly, I don't even know how this got greenlit, and if I had to guess based on how long it's been since the last G.I. Joe movie, I'd say this probably spent the better part of a decade in development hell, only to be greeted into the world with a $40 million box office against an $88 million budget. Ouch. Really feel like they should have known better. And as they say, knowing is half the battle. Number 8 and number 7, Boss Baby Family Business and The Croods 2. Okay, I had these two right next to each other and I couldn't decide which one went on top, so they both get equal placement. After all, they're both sequels to unremarkable DreamWorks films. Kids' films seem particularly prone to pointless sequels, and I kinda get it. Kids are more likely to obsess over one particular movie, and they're not the most discerning viewers, so you can typically show them the same characters doing a lot of the same stuff again, and they won't know the difference. And maybe I'm wrong because I don't have children, and I don't really keep up with children's films, but were Boss Baby and the Croods really popular? Boss Baby in particular seems like something kids wouldn't be into. When you're in the 7 to 10 demographic, there is nothing lamer than a fucking baby. The Croods, meanwhile, seems to have taken up residence on the lowest rung of DreamWorks memedom, so maybe they're counting on older audiences to watch it ironically? Or who knows, maybe someone at DreamWorks had really good ideas for Boss Baby and Croods sequels and were really passionate about these. Not like I'm ever gonna watch them. Number 6, Sing 2. Hey, speaking of sequels to kids' movies, it's our dear friends at Illumination once again. At this point, it's just tradition for me to rag on them. Their animation is cheap, their stories are uninventive, and their marketing tends to be really obnoxious. I suppose they did tone it down for this one. I wasn't bombarded with advertisements, although I did end up seeing a trailer that just straight up spoiled the movie. Honestly, Sing was a pretty mediocre movie, which makes it one of the best movies Illumination has ever made. So I don't exactly have the hate built up for this that I would for, say, another Minions movie. Like, at least this will probably have a killer soundtrack. This is mostly just a personal attack on Illumination, the single most obnoxious animation studio on the market. And if you don't agree, just remember, they're the ones letting Chris Pratt play Mario. Number 5, The Addams Family 2. Damn, another sequel to an animated movie. As a bit of evidence that this year was less dense with pointless movies than previous years, here a sequel takes a top 5 seat where its predecessor only made honorable mention. Though the fact that it's a sequel does boost its stance a little. There was already an Addams Family 2, and it's the best version of the Addams Family. Kids' movies today are so safe and sanitized, I can't imagine a good version of Addams Family being made with a PG rating. Not that I think the Addams Family is all that crude, but the constant trend to make everything for kids as bland and inoffensive as possible definitely runs counter to the Addams' ideals. The Addams Family values, if you will. And boy, these character designs are ugly. I don't mean creepy and creative like the original Addams Family comic. They're somehow uninventively ugly. I just don't like looking at them. Just something that does not interest me at all from a franchise I actually quite enjoy. A film whose motivations are not at all mysterious, but still a bit spooky. It's just money, my dude. Number 4, Jungle Cruise. Oh boy, here we go. A fucking Jungle Cruise movie. So back in the early aughts, Disney decided to try a bunch of movies based on rides, and almost all of them sucked. Dinosaurs, Haunted Mansion, Country Bears, also Pirates of the Caribbean, but that one was good, so it doesn't count. If you couldn't turn Haunted Mansion, a timeless idea and beloved ride, into a good movie, what makes you think you could do a Jungle Cruise movie? Jungle Cruise is a pretty plotless ride. As the name suggests, it's just kind of a chill boat ride through the jungle. To me, the appeal of the ride has always been the tour guide making bad jokes. That's why you write it, to hear lame jokes. And frankly, I've heard enough lame jokes from Dwayne Johnson. I don't know what else to say. This is just transparently a bad idea, and I don't know why anyone would make it. Moving on. Number 3, Cruella. Long beleaguered sigh. Disney wants to do a Lady Joker. Villain movies are hot right now. But like, why Cruella of all fucking characters? There are like a dozen other Disney villains I'd rather see movies about. My only guess is they already did a live-action 101 Dalmatians, so figured they couldn't do another one. Then again, wouldn't put it past them. But if you wanted a grounded, Joker-style, rejected by society thing, why would you pick the wealthy socialite who is the very definition of the term cartoon villain? Her name is Cruel Devil. You know what villain would have been better for this? Ursula from The Little Mermaid. I mean, she and King Triton clearly have a history, and she spends the movie physically separated from Mer society. You couldn't ask for a better Disney Joker. But we all know Ursula's trans, so that's not happening. Still, a Captain Hook or a Scar movie would have been way more interesting. But hey, let's see what the original cast think we should do with this film.
She ought to be locked up and never released.
Well, there you go. Number 2, Ghostbusters Afterlife. Apt name. For years, fans and those involved alike begged Sony for a Ghostbusters 3 that never materialized. Then Sony released Lady Ghostbusters to mixed but mostly negative reviews. Personally, I didn't hate it, but its greatest flaw was just Sony not letting it be its own thing. Although it was probably doomed to fail among purists and, let's be real, misogynistic fanboys. Not that everyone who hated this movie was misogynistic, just some of them definitely were. So after the backlash, I guess Sony decided to give fans what they really wanted. 30 years too late. And like, Say what you will about Lady Ghostbusters, at least there was buzz around it. Not always positive buzz, but buzz nonetheless. People were talking about it. People went and saw it. I don't know anyone who went and saw Ghostbusters Afterlife other than a few die-hard Ghostbusters superfans. I don't even know when this movie came out. I was shocked to find it had already released. Not that better marketing would have made me feel better about yet another decades-late sequel to an 80s comedy. You know why Ghostbusters worked? They got 4 very funny actors at the peak of their careers. Now, one of those 4 guys is dead, 2 more haven't made a good movie in decades, and the last one apparently didn't want to make a 3rd movie. But sure, make it about their kids. That doesn't seem awkward or like it's missing the point at all. And now some dishonorable mentions. The Forever Purge. We're still making Purge movies? What are there, like 6, 7? Do you even know anymore? Escape Room 2. You guys remember Escape Room? Yeah, me neither. Wrong Turn. Okay, at this point I have to accept the 2000s were 20 years ago. It is no longer too soon to be remaking this stuff. But you know, the 2000s were also a bad decade for movies, especially horror movies. Maybe just leave those alone. F9. At this point, I've just sort of accepted the Fast and the Furious movies. Also, I'm going to be watching this movie 2 weeks from now as part of my drunk rankings. Which brings us to the most pointless movie of the year. Space Jam 2, A New Legacy. Credit where it's due, I didn't think this movie was ever actually gonna come out. It's been in development hell since like the 90s. But you know what? It really should have stayed there. Space Jam was a bad movie. A fun, cheesy, nostalgic movie, but a bad one nonetheless. So bad, in fact, that Joe Dante made it his mission to make another Looney Tunes movie that was more respectful to the characters as a tribute to his late friend Chuck Jones, who incidentally also hated Space Jam. But fuck respect, we're here to get a quick buck off 90s nostalgia by referencing a bunch of modern stuff. This might as well be Hot Topic the movie. I think what really gets to me is like, Space Jam was such a disposable movie. It's worth a laugh or two, mostly at its expense, but still, fun hour and a half and then you can completely forget it. And giving it a sequel this late just feels like you're giving it more cultural importance than it has earned. This movie is just bluntly disrespectful. Audiences deserve better, the Looney Tunes deserve better, and frankly, Space Jam deserves better. Boy, I got less worked up than usual this year. You know, up until that last one. Do you think Hollywood's improving, or are they just wearing me down? I guess we'll find out next year when I have to talk about a Top Gun sequel. Happy 2022.